Morning, Sorry about that, Pastor Chuck Blair. Great to have you joining me this morning as we launch out into this week. And today we're looking at the idea that comfort is not always a great criteria and that we often need to embrace discomfort. And it's easy to sort of get sort of self-helpy, motivational speakerish about this, but I want to talk about it from a with more gravitas, from sort of a spiritual level, taking a look at why this is so, why we do need to embrace discomfort. So I want to go back to the biblical story we've been reading about Abraham, this ancient patriarch. He's burying loved ones, and it very much echoes Jesus's words later on in the Bible, in the New Testament. Let the dead bury their dead. So in other words, like it's about that things will die. Physically, things will die. People will leave our lives. Relationships will change. Jobs will change. All kinds of things will change. Our physical bodies will change and we need to learn to celebrate the time periods that we've had, but then also to allow them to have a good death and to bury them well with full honors, I guess might be a way to say it with a smile. I want to talk about maybe why that is so. Spirituality, we are always evolving, from a Christian New Church perspective, we believe that our bodies mirror what's going on spiritually. That there's a connection, right? And one of the parts that was just fascinating to me that I heard years ago on a podcast was that the human body has around 1.5 million cell divisions per second. You could Google that. It's pretty wild thought. So 1.5 million per second. That means we're going through hundreds of millions of cell divisions in a relatively short period of time, and that things are constantly just evolving, evolving, evolving. We are always in this process of change. And probably some of you remember this from human anatomy back in high school. And I believe it's still true. I didn't actually check it, but I believe it's still true. The whole human body replaces itself every 7 years. So there's always this change. We're always evolving. And and we're designed for that evolution. And it's both a spiritual thing and a physical thing. Even though part of that evolution is a physical decline, as our spirit should be getting brighter and brighter. That's part of life as well. And this idea, friends, that our spirit starts to evolve, like we are made for the challenge. We are much more made for the journey than the arrival. And that's what really brings us a great deal of joy. And it's just interesting, right? Like anytime you do a little thing, and I'm talking about like a St. Francis Inn or going out to an event that you thought like, oh, I don't really know that I want to do this. Anytime we do those things, and we brace just a little bit of discomfort. It's amazing how memorable those events really become. This weekend, my wife and I went out with our dear friends, and we went to a coffee and chocolate convention. Who knew there was even such a thing? But our friends found it online. We had a great time. And it was just like, yeah, it's this little thing we just hadn't done before. And that's embracing discomfort in a way. And that's sort of the fun side of it. But there's also the difficult side of it, the difficult side of embracing discomfort, which means we have to be willing to embrace difficult conversations. We have to be willing to embrace, our own. When people have uncomfortable conversations with us, we have to be able to embrace that discomfort and know that this is all part and parcel of the path of growth. And so how might we think of that, friends? Well, there's a couple of ways here. And first off, just to get clear on this and this embracing discomfort, it's a great question, and we've used it here on 10 Minutes Morning Calm before. If you could go back in your life and retake an opportunity that came past that you look at now and you wish if you knew then what you know now, you would have taken that opportunity. What is that for you? And that's one way of looking at embracing discomfort. And probably there was something out there was like, oh yeah, really should have done that because that would have blah blah blah, led down a whole chain that you feel would have been good for you. Probably the Lord thought it would have been good for you too, which is why He gave you the opportunity. And then the second part of it here, friends, and this is the real key, is I think a huge part of embracing discomfort is just space, is just taking a breath and just sitting in that uncomfortable place for a minute. And I want to give you an extreme example of this that I think many of you will resonate with. I know for me as a pastor, one of the real painful parts watching is when somebody's on their last legs or they've recently passed. There's usually someone in the group who's really uncomfortable with the whole idea of death. So what happens is people are grieving, they're like instantly interjecting, like instant comment, instant comment, instant comment, instant comment. And they're sort of bombarding the person with advice and bombarding the person with reminders that the person is fine. Instead of just taking a breath and just allowing there to be a time where we can all sit in the discomfort of this, in the sadness of this, in the challenge of this. And I feel like there's so many parts of life like that that we have that instant thought of like, how do I get comfortable? And that's not a great criteria. You know, we have to take a breath and really think, is there a discomfort here that we just need to allow to be present? And that can be friends, like, that's not always that as dire as when somebody's passing away. You can go into a social event, you're feeling awkward. I know for me, I always often feel when I go to social events for at least 5 minutes, I feel like I'm back in I changed schools in 8th grade and I have this memory of going into the cafeteria thinking, "Who am I gonna eat with?" And there's, like, that time of, like, "Okay, this is uncomfortable." And can we just take a breath and sit with the discomfort just for a minute? Because I think that is really, really important. So friends, this is a service, a sermon that both has the light and the heavy to it, you know, and but both have this idea, take a breath, because remember, it's not about getting to comfort as quickly as you can. That's just not the way the world works. That's not actually how you're made physically, mentally, or spiritually. We are made for this acquisitiveness. We're made for these asking questions. We're made for moving our lives out. We're made for this sense of adventure, where it's an ever expanding set of goals, and we can attack those goals as we get older with a lot more comfort, which is great. We come to have a lot more faith that God's got this, whether it works or it doesn't, God has it. But it still means we're taking steps to expand outward, and that's big. And if you see someone else in hard time, friends, you know, like allow in a very uncomfortable time or a sad time, just I urge you to allow the space. Allow the space. Allow the space. Allow the discomfort to be there. Please allow the discomfort to be there. And they won't thank you for it. They won't even notice. They'll sure notice if you jump in too quickly with all the reasons why, you know, all the reasons why you're trying to really it's about your discomfort over it, not about theirs. And that's what we just want to allow there to be space. So I hope that makes sense, dear friends. Remembering comfort is not always a good criteria, and that sometimes we have to embrace discomfort. However, that looks this week. And you have a wonderful week embracing discomfort in those places where it shows up. So, with that, dear friends, what we're going to do now is we're going to shift gears, as we always do here at New Church Live. And what we do is we come in for a very gentle landing. We do a meditation from the Old Testament. We do a prayer from the New Testament. We go back to the Old Testament for what's called the Levitican blessing. And then we will say hi to friends on Facebook. So, with that, let's get a big breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and be still. Be. Our Father, who art in heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so on the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little quick, cheery hello to folks. See how everyone is doing. And again, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We certainly did. Again, like chocolate and coffee convention. That is not a bad way to go at all. All right. Sorry about this. It's like taking a little bit of time here. Okay, 3 comments there. Jerry, good morning to you, my friend. And good morning to you, Linda. And good morning to you, Martha. Wonderful to have you folks, as always, joining us. Great to see your names up there. And now flipping on over to New Church Lives page. We got a bunch of comments over there. All right. Uh, Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Aaron, great to see you joining us as well. The fact that our cells, it's right, the facts that our cells are constantly renewing tells me the body is designed to heal itself in most cases. Tells us to be grateful for our pain. It's our body telling us what's wrong. It also translates spiritually when we are struggling with uncomfortable thoughts. Oh, that's so good. So I need to tell you a quick little story. Tony Dungy wrote a book about coaching. I've always enjoyed football. And he had a son who could feel no pain. And he, like, it's just some sort of neurological condition. And he said it was really hard raising that child. Because just imagine all the things where pain really helps us in so many different ways. And it's kind of interesting. Yeah, the absence of pain may actually be a problem, which is interesting. Gignone, a lovely day to you all. Beautiful. Jean writes, good morning. Uh, Gignone writes, visited Catholic Church, learned a great deal. Differences. Yeah, there are some beautiful ones. Glad you love it here at New Church Live. Good stuff. And Jean, good morning to you, my friend. All right, all like God bless all of you. Wishing you all the very best, and we will see you again